Have you ever wondered how it's possible to keep milk fresh for 6 whole months without electricity, freezers, or even modern refrigeration? In this video, we'll take you deep into the world of the Amish to uncover a centuries-old method of preserving milk for up to 180 days, using nothing more than winter ice, wooden structures, and a deep understanding of nature. No tech, no shortcuts, just pure, sustainable know-how passed down through generations. Number 1. Winter ice harvest. Every year, usually in January or February when the ponds are frozen solid and the air is sharp with midwinter cold, Amish families begin preparing for one of the most important communal tasks of the season, the ice harvest. This isn't just about collecting frozen water. It's about building the foundation for months of food preservation. It's a logistical operation that combines old knowledge, physical endurance, and tight community coordination. The harvest usually starts early in the morning, right after sunrise when the ice is at its thickest and strongest. Men arrive with long-handled saws, chisels, tongs, and handmade sleds. The ice, sometimes over a foot thick, is first scored with straight grooves using a guide, like a giant grid on the surface. Then each square is carefully cut along those lines, creating neat rectangular blocks roughly the size of a hay bale. It takes hours of work and careful balance on slick surfaces, often in sub-zero temperatures. Once cut, each block is levered up using iron tongs and slid across the frozen surface onto sleds waiting at the pond's edge. Younger boys help haul the sleds across the field, usually pulled by horses toward the nearest ice house. It's hard, physical labor, but it's also something most of them grow up doing every winter. By the time they're teenagers, they've already done this a dozen times and know the rhythm of it. Saw, lift, stack, repeat. Girls and women don't typically handle the ice directly, but they play an equally essential role, managing meals, keeping fires going, and bringing out pots of stew, hot cocoa, and homemade bread to feed the entire crew. The blocks are then immediately stored in the ice house, a special building designed solely to hold ice for as long as possible. But just stacking ice isn't enough. It has to be packed in with a thick layer of sawdust. The sawdust acts like insulation, filling the air gaps between blocks, preventing warm air from getting in and stopping the ice from melting quickly. It's such an effective method that a well-packed ice house can keep its contents frozen until late summer. Layer by layer, the blocks go in, alternating with sawdust until the building is full. This annual harvest is more than just a chore. It's tradition, survival strategy, and seasonal ritual all at once. For the Amish, it marks the quiet turning point of winter, when the cold is no longer a threat but a resource to be harvested and preserved. Number 2. Inside the ice house. The interior of an Amish ice house is a quiet triumph of simple engineering, built entirely from natural materials yet capable of maintaining freezing temperatures for months on end. These structures are typically freestanding buildings, modest in appearance from the outside, often resembling a shed or a small barn. But once inside, everything is designed with one goal in mind: preserving the cold. At the core of this system is what could be described as a wooden nesting box, a layered structure designed to trap cold like a thermos. The walls are constructed from thick pine planks, set in 2 layers to create a cavity in between. That cavity is tightly packed with either dry wood shavings, sawdust, or straw, all of which are excellent insulators. This material not only reduces heat transfer from the outside, but also allows the structure to breathe slightly, avoiding moisture buildup that could lead to rot. These natural fillers are chosen for their lightness, availability, and thermal properties. Over time, they settle into the cracks and gaps, forming a dense insulating barrier that effectively slows down the melting process of the ice. The floor of the ice house is just as important as its walls. It's never built directly on the ground. Instead, the entire structure sits on raised wooden beams or joists. This creates a dry base with space underneath to allow meltwater to flow away. Beneath the beams, gravel or crushed stone is usually spread to further aid drainage. The meltwater seeps downward through the gaps between floorboards and filters into the gravel bed, where it can evaporate or be routed out through a small trench. This system prevents the base of the ice pile from becoming waterlogged, which would otherwise increase thermal conductivity and speed up melting. It also keeps the interior of the icehouse clean and less prone to bacteria or mildew, which thrive in stagnant water. Another subtle but essential feature is the ventilation. There are typically no windows and certainly no airflow from open doors. However, 2 small vents are built near the ridge of the roof. These are only opened occasionally, specifically on cold winter nights, allowing a rush of frigid outside air to enter and recharge the internal environment. This timed exposure reinforces the cold already stored inside and helps to lower the interior temperature without wasting the remaining ice. Because the vents are small and high up, they don't let warm air in or out during the day, preserving the carefully maintained internal climate. Together, these features form a passive refrigeration system that works entirely without electricity. The structure relies on smart design, natural materials, and an understanding of thermodynamics passed down through generations. Number 3, cooling the milk. Once the milk is collected fresh from the cow in the early morning hours, the process of preservation begins almost immediately. The Amish don't let milk sit at room temperature for long. As soon as the milking is done, the warm milk is transferred into a large basin or trough filled with ice slush or spring-cooled water. This step is absolutely critical. It brings the milk's temperature down fast, from around 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, straight to about 4 degrees Celsius, 39 degrees Fahrenheit, which slows down the growth of bacteria significantly. They don't use any high-tech chilling systems, just nature's own refrigeration, and they work fast. There's no pausing to chat or sip coffee. It's all about keeping that milk safe. Once the milk is chilled, it's time to seal it. The Amish use durable stainless steel cans that are scrubbed spotless before every use. These containers are designed to last for years and are capable of holding large volumes without risk of contamination. Every can is filled to the proper level, sealed tightly with a locking lid, and labeled if necessary. The containers are then carried to the ice house, which is kept as cold and stable as possible year-round. Placement matters. They don't just toss the cans in anywhere. Each can is positioned close to the center of the ice stack, surrounded on all sides by dense, cold air, and sometimes even placed directly on thick blocks of ice for maximum effect. Here's where it gets even more interesting. By the time the night air sets in and temperatures drop even further inside the insulated ice house, the milk inside those sealed cans actually freezes solid. It's not just chilled, it becomes a solid block of milk ice. And this isn't accidental. This step is intentional and incredibly effective for long-term storage. Freezing essentially locks in the milk's freshness, halting spoilage almost entirely. But frozen milk isn't just left exposed, it's carefully buried in layers of sawdust, just like the harvested ice blocks. That sawdust helps maintain a consistent temperature around each can and protects them from fluctuations caused by external weather changes. When it's time to use the milk, only one can is taken out at a time, never more. The thawing process is handled slowly and deliberately, usually in a cool pantry or kitchen icebox. The can is brought inside the day before it's needed and allowed to thaw gradually over many hours. This careful defrosting helps prevent the milk fat from separating or turning into clumps, which can ruin the texture and taste. The result? Smooth, clean-tasting milk that feels like it was just collected, even if it's been sitting in the ice house for several months. Number 4, why the milk lasts half a year. The reason Amish milk can stay fresh for nearly 6 months without spoiling comes down to a blend of consistent low temperatures, strict handling discipline, and deeply rooted hygiene practices. It's not about freezing milk and hoping for the best. It's about creating a cold environment that mimics the reliability of a commercial-grade freezer, but using nothing more than frozen pond water, sawdust, and attention to detail passed down through generations. At the heart of this method is a cold environment that stays stable between -5 and -10 degrees Celsius, all without the use of electricity. These temperatures are key because they halt most microbial activity. Bacteria, including those that cause souring, spoilage, or health risks, can't thrive when it's that cold. Their biological processes slow down to the point of near dormancy. At the same time, fat oxidation, one of the main causes of off flavors in milk, is also reduced dramatically in this frozen state. This helps preserve not only safety but taste and texture, which is crucial for families who rely on their own milk supply all year round. Another major factor is the remarkable temperature consistency inside the Amish icehouse. The door is opened only when absolutely necessary, and even then it's a quick in and out process. There are no lights inside, no airflow from outside, and no mechanical fans that might stir up warm air. This creates a steady internal climate that doesn't fluctuate throughout the day or in response to weather changes. These fluctuations are what often ruin food in poorly insulated or frequently accessed freezers. But the Amish setup avoids all that with smart, simple engineering and discipline. Hygiene plays just as important a role. Milk cans are always cleaned thoroughly after each use, scrubbed with hot alkaline solutions, rinsed, and then often steamed or scalded to kill any lingering microbes. After thawing, many families will also bring the milk close to boiling before consuming it, as an extra precaution. This isn't because their milk is unsafe, but because they take food safety seriously and don't rely on luck or assumptions. In modern homes, milk is usually frozen for up to 3 months to preserve its taste. But in the Amish world, the cold isn't just a preservation method, it's a system. Their ice house doesn't just freeze the milk, it holds it in a kind of suspended animation for half a year. That's the real secret. It's not one trick, but many simple things done exactly right. Number 5. Daily routine. The everyday routine the Amish follow to maintain their long-term milk storage is a careful blend of order, tradition, and efficiency. It might look simple from the outside, but every step is thought out to make sure nothing is wasted, spoiled, or disrupted inside the icehouse. One of the first principles they follow is maintaining a clear, structured path within the ice storage area. Inside the icehouse, the milk cans are not just stacked randomly. They're placed in organized rows, typically buried in sawdust, or placed behind large ice blocks to keep them cold. To avoid unnecessary disturbance of this carefully insulated space, the Amish leave a narrow corridor that runs from the entrance door straight to the most recently stored milk. This setup means that whenever someone needs to retrieve a new can, they don't have to shift or expose any of the older stock. The path allows them to move efficiently without releasing too much warm air into the cold chamber or compromising the rest of the milk's preservation. This structured access is more important than it sounds. Each time the door opens, even briefly, warm air seeps in. If the whole interior is constantly being disturbed or rearranged, it could speed up ice melt, disrupt temperature stability, and reduce the life of the stored milk. By keeping movement inside minimal and intentional, the cold is conserved, the ice lasts longer, and the milk stays in its ideal condition. Then comes the thawing process, which is just as deliberate. The Amish don't just grab a frozen can and expect to use it within the hour. Usually a milk can is removed from the ice house at least 24 hours before it's needed. It's then brought into the house, placed in a cool, shaded spot like a pantry, mudroom, or specially built wooden ice box, where it can begin to thaw gradually and evenly. This slow defrosting helps maintain the texture and taste of the milk. If it's melted too fast or exposed to heat, the fats in the milk can separate or curdle, ruining the batch. For specific tasks like baking or cheese making, the milk is often brought inside even earlier to reach the perfect consistency and temperature naturally. This kind of schedule isn't just a habit, it's a necessity. There's no last-minute rushing when your food storage depends on nature and patience. Every day, someone in the household keeps track of how much milk is left in the current can and knows exactly when to bring the next one in. It's quiet, careful, and extremely efficient. Number 6. Why the method still matters. In a world increasingly shaped by digital convenience and plug-in solutions, the Amish approach to milk preservation stands out not just as a quaint tradition, but as a conscious, well-considered system that continues to serve real needs, especially in conservative Amish groups where modern appliances are either discouraged or completely prohibited. The most conservative orders, like the Swartzentruber Amish, follow strict Ordnung rules that forbid the use of electricity from public utilities. This means electric refrigerators, freezers, and anything that requires being plugged into a grid are entirely off limits. That alone makes traditional icehouse storage not just a fallback option, but the default way of preserving perishables. It's not optional for them, it's essential. But practicality isn't the only reason this method still matters. Even for more moderate communities that might have access to propane appliances or limited solar setups, the traditional use of ice and wood provides something that technology often can't: freedom from recurring fuel costs and market fluctuations. Unlike propane refrigerators that rely on purchased gas, subject to rising prices and inconsistent availability, winter ice is gathered once a year through hard work with no monetary cost. It doesn't need to be refueled every month or serviced by a technician. Once it's harvested and packed correctly, it silently and effectively performs its job for months. The Amish invest sweat instead of dollars, and in doing so, they build not just cold storage, but social bonds, family cooperation, and seasonal awareness. It's a cycle of mutual support. Each person contributes and each household benefits. On a broader level, this approach aligns with a deep environmental awareness, even if it's not labeled as such by the Amish themselves. There's no freon leaking into the atmosphere, no compressors running day and night, and no electric load stressing a power grid. It's carbon-neutral food preservation in its purest form. While most people rely on power-hungry appliances to keep milk cold for a week or two, Amish families can stretch the same milk for 6 months using nothing more than nature and knowledge. That's not just impressive, it's a living reminder that sustainability doesn't have to come from new inventions. Sometimes it comes from preserving old wisdom that never stopped working in the first place. In times of energy crisis, blackouts, or rising costs, this model doesn't just survive, it thrives. Number 7. Adapting to warmer climates. In areas where winters aren't consistently cold enough to produce thick, usable pond ice, Amish communities have found practical and thoughtful ways to adapt their food preservation systems while staying true to their off-grid lifestyle and religious principles. Regions like southern Pennsylvania, Indiana, and Kentucky often experience mild or unpredictable winters, which means that the traditional practice of harvesting large blocks of natural ice can't always be relied upon. Instead of abandoning their methods entirely, Amish families introduce alternatives that still avoid full electrification but provide the cold storage necessary for milk and other perishables. One of the most common adaptations is the use of propane-powered gas refrigerators. These appliances are designed specifically for off-grid living and are widely accepted in many Amish orders, particularly among more progressive districts. Propane fridges operate without electricity and are capable of keeping milk and dairy products at the necessary cool temperatures to prevent spoilage. They're often kept in mudrooms, summer kitchens, or dedicated storage sheds, where the ambient heat from cooking and daily activity won't affect their efficiency. The use of gas instead of electricity fits within the rules of many Amish communities because it doesn't require connecting to the public power grid, which is often the primary concern rather than modern convenience itself. During the peak of summer, when natural ice storage is no longer feasible and propane use is limited or regulated within certain families, some Amish also turn to buying commercial ice blocks. These are typically purchased from local icehouses or suppliers who sell clean, food-safe ice by the block. Families that don't harvest their own ice in winter will often stockpile these purchased blocks in their traditional icehouses, using the same insulation techniques with sawdust and straw. This commercial ice, though not free like harvested pond ice, provides a dependable stopgap to keep milk cool during the hottest months. It's especially useful for smaller households that don't consume large dairy volumes or need cold storage for brief periods between baking, cheese making, or butter production. Another long-standing solution is the use of spring houses, small stone or brick buildings constructed over naturally flowing springs. These structures harness the constant, cool temperature of the water source, which typically stays around 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. Inside the springhouse, milk is stored on stone shelves or in metal cans partially submerged in troughs of cold water. This keeps it fresh for several days, enough for immediate consumption or quick processing. While it doesn't offer long-term freezing like an icehouse, the springhouse method is time-tested, fuel-free, and remarkably effective in maintaining safe conditions for raw milk and other sensitive foods during moderate heat.